The sun hung low in the sky, a molten orb draining the color from the world around me. The streets shimmered, heat rising from the asphalt like a mirage. I was out for a run, the gravel crunching beneath my sneakers, the rhythmic sound keeping me company as I tried to clear my mind of the day's stresses. I was 25, a graphic designer trying to navigate the labyrinthine paths of adulthood, and sometimes it felt as though I was sprinting just to keep up with the pace of life. As I rounded a corner, I spotted her, Emily, my best friend's older sister. She stood on her porch, her silhouette framed by the waning sunlight. The afternoon light caught the strands of her wavy brown hair, making them glint like burnished gold. I could see her struggle with heavy grocery bags, the way she shifted her weight from one foot to the other, her brow furrowed in frustration, a slight pout forming on her lips. "Need a hand." The words slipped out before I could think better of it. It was a spontaneous offer, uncharacteristic for me, but something about the sight of her wrestling with those bags stirred a protective instinct. I felt heat creeping up my neck as she turned her gaze toward me, her green eyes narrowing slightly, assessing my offer like a hawk sizing up a potential prey. "Do you always show up when I need you, Jake?" she asked, a hint of challenge underlying her tone. It was a simple question, yet it hung in the air between us, thick with unspoken tension. A thread pulling taut, ready to snap at any moment. I nodded, feeling the weight of her gaze, the way she scrutinized me. I didn't have a real response, not one that felt adequate. The summer heat pressed down on us like a weight, and I hurried across the street, eager to bridge that invisible gap. "Let me help," I said again, taking the bags from her hands, the fabric rough against my palms. The moment I lifted them, I felt a familiar rush of adrenaline. They were heavier than I expected, but I adjusted my grip, the muscle memory of lifting weights kicking in. As I glanced back at her, for a fleeting second, I caught a glimpse of surprise mingling with something else, perhaps admiration, but as quickly as it came, it vanished, replaced by her usual guarded demeanor. "Thanks," she said, though it felt more like a formality than genuine gratitude. The way she leaned against the doorframe, arms crossed, chin tilted slightly, made it clear that this was more than just an exchange of courtesies. The air between us buzzed with an electric energy, a current that pulsed as I stepped inside her house, the cool air washing over me like a balm against the oppressive heat. The kitchen was bright, the sunlight spilling through the window and illuminating countertops cluttered with the remnants of her grocery haul, fruits, vegetables, and an array of items that hinted at her culinary prowess. I set the bags down on the table, feeling a sense of accomplishment wash over me. It was a small gesture, but in that moment it felt monumental. Emily leaned on the counter, the sunlight casting a halo around her, accentuating the sharp angles of her face. "You really have a habit of arriving when I need you," she said, her voice casual, but the weight behind her words hung heavily in the room. "Luck, I suppose?" I replied, trying to keep the tone light, but I could feel the heat rising again, this time not just from the weather. She narrowed her eyes, studying me, and I felt a shiver of anticipation run down my spine. "Or instinct," she said softly, her gaze piercing into mine as if searching for something deeper, something hidden beneath the surface. I swallowed hard, the silence stretching between us, thick and suffocating. I had always found Emily captivating, but there was a line, a boundary I had never dared to cross. She was my friend's sister, and I knew the risks that came with that. But right now, standing in her kitchen, the air thick with unspoken words, everything felt different. The usual barriers seemed to dissolve, replaced by a magnetic pull that drew us closer. "Do you want something to drink?" she asked, breaking the tension. I nodded, grateful for the distraction, and she moved to the fridge, her movements fluid and graceful. I watched her, captivated by the way she carried herself, the confidence in her stride. She poured 2 glasses of iced tea, the sound of the liquid splashing against the glass echoing in the silence. "You didn't have to come over, you know," she said, handing me a glass. Her fingers brushed against mine, and I felt a spark. I couldn't help but wonder if she felt it too, if the air around us crackled with the same electricity that coursed through me. "Yeah, but I wanted to," I replied, my voice steadier than I felt. There was an uncharted territory between us, a space filled with possibilities that felt both thrilling and terrifying. I took a sip of the tea, the cold liquid refreshing against the heat of the day, but it did little to cool the rising tension. "Why do you care?" she asked suddenly, her eyes narrowing, as if she were trying to peel back my layers, searching for something more. "It's just what friends do," I said, and the words felt inadequate, as if I were trying to fit a complex emotion into a simple box. "Friends?" she echoed, her tone laced with skepticism. "You're more than just a friend to me, Jake. You know that, right?" The honesty in her voice struck me, a blunt force that left no room for misinterpretation. I felt my heart race, the weight of her words sinking in as I stared at her, searching for the right response. But what was there to say? The truth was, I didn't know what we were, where the line blurred between friendship and something more. I started, but the words caught in my throat, tangled in the web of my emotions. I didn't want to ruin this moment, the fragile connection that had formed between us. She stepped closer, the distance between us shrinking, and I could feel her breath on my skin, warm and inviting. "What if you just let yourself feel it?" she suggested, her voice barely above a whisper. I could sense the shift, the way the air around us thickened as if the universe was holding its breath, waiting for us to make a choice. My heart raced, the temptation to close that distance overwhelming. But there was a danger in that, a risk I wasn't sure I was ready to take. "Emily?" I said, my voice low, filled with hesitation. "This is complicated. You know that. Complicated? Or just uncomfortable?" she challenged, her green eyes blazing with intensity. "You're afraid of crossing a line that you think shouldn't be crossed. But what if that line is just a boundary you've created?" Her words hung in the air, a challenge I wasn't sure how to respond to. I shifted my weight, the heat of her body radiating against mine, drawing me in. "I don't want to lose what we have," I finally said, the honesty in my voice surprising even me. "What if what we have is just the beginning?" she countered, her gaze unwavering. I felt my breath catch in my throat, the words leaving a gaping silence in their wake. The possibilities loomed before us, vast and terrifying. I wanted to reach out, to pull her closer, to explore what lay beyond the boundaries we had set. But fear clawed at my insides, a reminder of the stakes involved. "Maybe we should take a step back," I suggested, my voice trembling slightly. I glanced away, unable to hold her gaze any longer. The moment felt too charged, too raw, and I wasn't sure I could navigate it without losing myself. "Or maybe we should step forward," she replied, her tone calm but resolute. "Jake, I don't want to lose you either, but I also don't want to pretend that there isn't something here." I turned to face her, the intensity of her words striking me. The truth was, she was right. There was something simmering beneath the surface, something that had been building for a long time. But acknowledging it meant risking everything. Our friendship, our families, the tenuous balance we had maintained for so long. "I need to think," I finally said, the words tasting bittersweet on my tongue. She nodded, her expression softening. "Just remember that I'm here, Jake, whenever you're ready." The air between us shifted, the tension morphing into something more tender, more understanding. I could sense the fragile bond we shared, one that was both exhilarating and terrifying. As I stepped back, creating a small distance between us, I felt the weight of what lay ahead settle on my shoulders. I left her house that day with a sense of unresolved longing, the heat of the summer sun still hanging in the air. As I jogged away, I could feel her gaze on me, hot and piercing, a lingering warmth that stayed even as the distance increased. I could hear the sounds of the neighborhood, children laughing in the distance, the faint hum of a lawnmower, and the rustle of leaves in the warm breeze. But everything felt muted, as if I were in a world separate from the one I'd just left. That evening, I sat on my couch, the glow of my laptop illuminating the dim room as I attempted to focus on work. But my mind kept drifting back to Emily. I thought of her eyes, the way they sparkled with mischief and intelligence, and how her laughter echoed in my ears long after she'd stopped. I couldn't shake the image of her leaning against the kitchen counter, the sunlight framing her silhouette, casting a warm glow that felt almost ethereal. I tried to concentrate on the design project I was working on, but no matter how hard I focused, the colors on my screen blurred into a haze. I was stuck in a cycle of self-reflection, weighing my feelings against the reality of our situation. My phone buzzed on the coffee table, breaking me from my thoughts. I picked it up, half expecting it to be Emily, but it was just a message from my best friend, Tom, checking in to see if I wanted to grab a drink later. I hesitated, my thumb hovering over the keyboard as I considered my response. Part of me wanted to decline, to wallow in my thoughts about Emily, but another part of me knew I needed the distraction. I typed back a quick reply, letting him know I was in, and set my phone down, feeling a mix of relief and disappointment. Later that evening, I found myself in our usual hangout, a dimly lit bar with an eclectic vibe, the walls adorned with vintage posters, and the air filled with the low hum of conversations mixed with laughter. Tom was already seated at our favorite booth, a pint of beer waiting for me. He greeted me with a wide smile, his demeanor always infectious, and it felt good to be among friends, even if my mind was still entangled in thoughts of Emily. "Hey man, you look a bit out of it," Tom remarked, raising an eyebrow as I slid into the booth. "Everything okay?" "Yeah, just thinking about work," I replied, trying to brush it off. But I could see the knowing look in his eyes, the way he could read me like a book. "Come on, what's really going on?" he pressed, taking a sip of his beer. "You've been off lately. Is it about Emily?" I felt my stomach drop at the mention of her name, and I hesitated, weighing my options. Do I share what had transpired earlier? The tension, the unspoken words, the way she had challenged me? Or do I keep it under wraps, preserving the delicate nature of our situation? "Just, some stuff happened," I said carefully, trying to keep my tone casual. "She needed help with groceries today, and we talked." Tom leaned in, his curiosity piqued. "Talked? About what?" I took a deep breath, gathering my thoughts. "About us, I guess. About what we might be." My voice dropped to a whisper, the weight of my confession heavy in the air. "Wow," he replied, his eyes wide with surprise. "That's big, man. You've always had a crush on her." "It's not just a crush," I shot back, feeling defensive. "It's complicated. She's your sister, and there's a lot at stake." "Jake, you need to figure out what you want," he said, his tone serious. "You can't keep running from it. If there's something there, you owe it to yourself to explore it." His words hung in the air, resonating with a truth I couldn't ignore. I sighed, taking a gulp of my beer, trying to drown out the growing anxiety. But what if it ruins everything? What if I lose her? Or what if it's the best thing that ever happened to both of you? Tom countered. "You won't know unless you take the leap." We spent the next hour discussing everything from work to relationships, the conversation flowing easily as we fell into our familiar rhythm. Yet, in the back of my mind, the weight of the earlier conversation with Emily lingered. The pull between fear and desire was palpable, and I could feel the lines between friendship and something more blurring with every passing moment. By the time I got home, the moon hung high in the sky, casting a silvery glow across the world. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, my mind racing with thoughts of Emily, the way she challenged me, the warmth of her presence, and the undeniable chemistry that sparked between us flooded my mind. I knew I had to confront my feelings to figure out what I truly wanted. As the days turned into weeks, my interactions with Emily became more frequent, our conversations stretching into late-night phone calls and shared laughter. Each moment spent together only deepened the connection between us. Yet, the unspoken tension hung like a cloud, thick and suffocating, threatening to burst at any moment. One Saturday afternoon, we found ourselves at a local coffee shop, the aroma of freshly brewed coffee filling the air. We sat across from each other, our conversations punctuated by comfortable silences. I could see the way her eyes sparkled with excitement as she shared stories about her latest culinary experiments, while I recounted moments from my design projects. But the air was charged with anticipation, and I could feel the weight of what lay unsaid lingering between us. After a few sips of coffee, I took a deep breath. The time had come to address the elephant in the room. Emily, can we talk about what happened that day in your kitchen? I finally said, my voice steady despite the flutter of nerves in my stomach. Her expression shifted, a mix of surprise and apprehension crossing her features. I was wondering when you'd bring it up, she replied, her tone cautious. I don't want to pretend that there isn't something between us, I continued, my heart racing. But I also don't want to risk losing you. You mean too much to me. She studied me for a moment, her gaze searching, as if weighing my words. Jake, I feel it too. There's something special here, something worth exploring. But I understand your fears. Then what do we do? I asked, the vulnerability in my voice palpable. Maybe we start by being honest with each other, she suggested, leaning forward, her green eyes locking onto mine. I don't want to rush anything, but I also don't want to keep pretending. I think we should take our time, see where this goes. I nodded, relief flooding through me. I'd like that. The tension that had filled the air began to dissipate, replaced by a sense of understanding. As we continued to talk, I felt a weight lifting off my shoulders. We shared our hopes, our fears and dreams, and for the first time, I felt like we were truly on the same page. The boundaries that had once felt so rigid began to blur, allowing space for something new to blossom between us. That afternoon marked a turning point in our relationship, a moment of clarity that would pave the way for a deeper connection. We left the coffee shop with a renewed sense of possibility, knowing that whatever lay ahead, we would face it together. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow over the world, I couldn't help but feel a sense of excitement for what was to come. The path ahead was uncharted, filled with uncertainties, but for the first time, I felt ready to embrace it. I had taken a step forward, and somehow, that leap of faith felt like the beginning of something beautiful. In the days that followed, our friendship deepened as we navigated this new territory. We'd have late-night conversations filled with laughter and vulnerability, exploring the nuances of our feelings while still cherishing the bond we had built over the years. Each moment felt like a gift, a reminder that the line between friendship and something more could be crossed with grace and intention. I watched as Emily transformed from my best friend's sister into a woman I admired profoundly. Her laughter became the soundtrack of my days, and the way her eyes lit up when she talked about her passions made my heart race. I found myself falling for her in ways I hadn't anticipated, and each moment together solidified the idea that we were meant to explore this connection. One evening, as we sat on her porch, the stars twinkling above us, I reached for her hand. It felt natural, our fingers intertwining as if they had always belonged together. I can't believe I waited so long to explore this with you, I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. Emily turned to me, her gaze steady and warm. Me neither. It feels like we were always meant to find our way here. And just like that, we stepped into a new chapter of our lives. One that was filled with uncertainty, yet brimming with promise. We had crossed the threshold from friends to something more. And as we leaned into this new dynamic, I knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, we would face them together. The summer days stretched into a rhythm of shared experiences, laughter, and the blossoming of a relationship that felt both exhilarating and terrifying. We ventured into new places, explored hidden corners of the town, and reveled in the joy of simply being together. I learned to appreciate the beauty in the mundane, cooking together, getting lost in conversations, and sharing dreams for the future. With each passing day, my feelings for Emily deepened, and I couldn't help but marvel at the way our connection transformed. The line between friendship and romance had blurred into something beautiful and profound, and I was grateful for every moment we shared. As the summer began to wane, I found myself reflecting on the journey that had brought us to this point. What had started as a hesitant offer of help had blossomed into a love story that felt both inevitable and miraculous. The road ahead was still uncertain, but I felt a newfound sense of confidence, knowing we were ready to take on whatever came next. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm golden hue across the sky, I took Emily to our favorite spot, a secluded overlook that offered a breathtaking view of the town below. The air was filled with the scent of blooming flowers, and the gentle breeze played with her hair as we sat side by side, our hands intertwined. "Jake," she began, her voice soft and contemplative. "I'm so glad we took this leap. It feels like we're finally where we're meant to be." I turned to her, my heart swelling with affection. "I couldn't agree more. You've brought so much light into my life, Emily. I can't imagine it without you." She smiled, a radiant glow illuminating her features, and in that moment, I knew that whatever lay ahead, we would navigate it together. The world felt alive with possibilities, and I was ready to embrace every single one of them with her by my side. As we watched the sun set together, I felt a deep sense of gratitude for the journey that had brought us here. The fears and uncertainties that had once loomed large began to fade, replaced by the warmth of connection and the promise of love. And as the stars began to twinkle above us, I knew that this was just the beginning of a beautiful adventure, one that would lead us to new heights and deeper understanding. Together, we would forge a path filled with love, laughter, and the joy of simply being who we were meant to be.